Stop ignoring this warning sign in your relationship. You know the one I'm talking about. It's not the loud fights, not the big betrayals. It's something quieter. It's the slow disappearance of respect. The moment respect starts to fade, love doesn't leave with a bang. It slips out the back door unnoticed until one day you wake up and wonder where it went. And by then it feels too far gone. Respect isn't just about words. It's about how we listen. It's how we show up, how we hold space for each other's dreams, even when we don't fully understand them. When respect quietly disappears, the foundation cracks. And when the foundation cracks, nothing built on top of it can stand for long. And here's the deeper warning. If you feel safer hiding your truth than sharing it, you're not in love. You're living in fear. Love should feel like the safest place to tell the truth, even when it's hard. If you have to edit yourself, shrink yourself, censor your feelings just to avoid conflict or judgment, that's not love. That's survival. And no one was born to survive the relationship. We were born to grow in it. When respect quietly disappears, love silently follows. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen with an announcement or a dramatic moment. It happens in the small, almost invisible choices we make every day. At first it looks harmless. You start interrupting each other more often. You start dismissing their opinions with a quick wave of the hand. You roll your eyes instead of listening. You talk about each other more than you talk to each other. And slowly a space begins to grow between you. Respect is the soil that love needs to grow. Without it, love can't take root. And yet we're so quick to assume that love alone is enough. We believe that if we love someone deeply, we can get through anything. But the truth is, love without respect is fragile. It's love on shaky ground. You can love someone and still hurt them. You can love someone and still belittle them. You can love someone and still betray their trust. But you can't truly love someone well if you stop respecting them. Respect is how we show that we see the other person as whole, as worthy, as an equal. It's how we honor their perspective even when we disagree. It's how we make room for their voice even when it challenges us. The absence of respect may not feel like a big deal in the moment, but it's a slow unraveling. It's death by 1,000 cuts. Every sarcastic comment, every condescending reply, every refusal to listen, these are small acts of disrespect, and they add up. One day you wake up and realize you've stopped trusting each other. You've stopped turning toward each other in moments of need. You've stopped sharing your deepest thoughts because you no longer feel safe doing so. And by the time you notice that love feels distant, the respect that once held it together has been eroded beyond recognition. Love doesn't leave loudly, it slips away quietly. One unkind word, one dismissive glance at a time. Respect also means boundaries. It means understanding where your partner ends and you begin. It means not crossing the lines that protect their dignity even when you're angry. It's easy to respect someone when things are good, but the real test of respect shows up in conflict, in disappointment, in frustration. If you can't hold on to respect in the hard moments, you risk breaking something that love alone can't repair. We often focus on love because it's romantic, it's passion, it's exciting. But respect is steady. Respect is quiet. Respect doesn't always feel dramatic. And yet, it's respect that makes love sustainable. It's what keeps love from turning into control, into manipulation, into resentment. Without respect, love becomes ownership. Without respect, love becomes obligation. Without respect, love becomes a performance instead of a partnership. I've seen too many people stay in relationships where love was still present, but respect had long since vanished. And they couldn't understand why they felt so lonely, so small, so unheard. They kept telling themselves, but we love each other. And they did, but love isn't meant to suffocate. Love is meant to empower. And respect is what gives love the space to breathe. If you stop respecting your partner, or if you feel they've stopped respecting you, that is the warning sign you cannot afford to ignore. Because once respect goes, love may still hang on for a while. It may try to survive out of habit, out of hope, out of history, but love cannot thrive in an environment where respect is absent. It cannot flourish where dignity is undermined. When respect quietly disappears, love silently follows. The silence is the saddest part. It's the silence of conversations that never happen, apologies that are never spoken, wounds that are never healed. And the longer you wait, the harder it is to find your way back. So if you feel that respect is slipping away, don't ignore it. Don't wait until love is only a memory. Speak up, fight for it. Because at the end of the day, it's respect that makes love possible and keeps it alive. If you feel safer hiding your truth and sharing it, that's not love, that's fear. And fear has no place at the heart of a relationship that's meant to nourish you. Love should be the safest place in the world to be exactly who you are. It should be the place where you can take off the mask, lower the walls, and speak from the deepest parts of yourself without fear of judgment, rejection, or punishment. If you find yourself constantly walking on eggshells, rehearsing your words before you speak, or holding back your real feelings just to keep the peace, that's not love holding you, it's fear controlling you. Fear tells you to be quiet so you don't upset them. Fear tells you not to speak up because it's not worth the fight. Fear tells you to pretend everything's okay even when your heart is breaking. But every time you hide your truth, you're betraying yourself a little bit. Every time you choose silence over honesty, you're creating a gap between who you are and who you're pretending to be. And over time, that gap doesn't just stay small, it widens until one day you can't recognize yourself in the relationship anymore. Love is not supposed to ask you to shrink. Love is not supposed to demand that you silence parts of yourself to be accepted. Love at its best invites all of you to the table. Your strengths, your weaknesses, your doubts, your dreams, your fears, your failures. It holds space for the messy, imperfect, evolving human that you are. If you can't bring your full self into the relationship, then love isn't really showing up. Fear is running the show, and fear can only sustain a connection built on performance, not on authenticity. There's a deep loneliness in hiding. Even when you're physically close to someone, if you can't share your truth, you will feel emotionally alone. And the irony is, the more you hide, the more alone you feel, and the more alone you feel, the harder it becomes to speak up. It's a cycle that traps you in silence, and silence is the slow killer of intimacy. Love cannot grow where truth is not spoken. Love cannot deepen where honesty is not welcomed. Maybe you've been told that bringing up hard topics makes you too emotional or too dramatic. Maybe you've been taught that expressing needs makes you selfish, or setting boundaries makes you difficult, so you learn to keep quiet, to go along, to avoid rocking the boat. But here's the thing, a relationship that can't handle your truth isn't a relationship that can handle your growth. If you have to stay small to keep the relationship intact, then the relationship isn't holding you, it's holding you back. Real love creates safety. Not because it promises perfection or guarantees no conflict, but because it creates a foundation where even difficult conversations can happen without fear of being dismissed, belittled, or abandoned. Safety doesn't mean there's never discomfort. It means that discomfort doesn't threaten the relationship itself. You can be honest, even when it's hard, and still trust that you'll be met with care, with curiosity, with respect. If you feel safer hiding your truth, ask yourself, what am I afraid will happen if I speak? And then ask, what is already happening because I'm silent? Silence might avoid conflict today, but it builds distance tomorrow. Silence might keep the peace on the surface, but it creates war inside your own heart. And over time, the cost of that silence will be greater than the cost of speaking. You deserve to be in a relationship where your truth is not only allowed, but invited. Where your voice is not only tolerated, but valued. Where your honesty is not seen as a threat, but as a gift. Love is not a place where you have to hide. Love is a place where you can come out of hiding. And if that's not what you're experiencing, it's time to ask yourself, am I staying for love? Or am I staying because I'm afraid of what will happen if I leave? At the end of the day, love and fear cannot occupy the same space. One will always push the other out. Choose love, the kind of love that makes you feel safe to be real, safe to be honest, safe to be you. Because anything less is not love, it's fear wearing a mask. The moment you stop being curious about each other is the moment you start drifting apart. It doesn't happen instantly. It's not a sudden break, not a loud ending. It's subtle, quiet. You don't even realize it's happening at first, but slowly, piece by piece, the space between you grows. And that space is filled not with conflict, but with indifference. Curiosity is the fuel of connection. When you first fall in love, curiosity comes naturally. You want to know everything about them. Their stories, their dreams, their scars, their quirks. You stay up late asking questions, listening closely, soaking in every detail. There's wonder in discovering another human being and peeling back the layers and seeing who they really are underneath. But as time passes, many couples stop asking. They stop listening. They assume they already know everything there is to know. But here's the truth. No one stays the same. We're all evolving all the time. The person you married 5 years ago is not exactly the same person standing in front of you today. Their hopes have shifted. Their fears have changed. Their goals have grown. And if you're not paying attention, if you're not staying curious, you miss those changes. You miss who they're becoming. And eventually you wake up next to someone who feels like a stranger, not because they hid from you, but because you stopped asking. It's easy to fall into routines, to talk about work, chores, schedules, bills, to focus on logistics and leave the deeper conversations behind, but logistics won't keep you close. Information isn't the same as intimacy. You can live under the same roof, share the same bed, raise the same children, and still drift apart. Because intimacy isn't built on proximity, it's built on curiosity, on asking questions that don't have easy answers, on wanting to know not just what they're doing, but how they're feeling, not just where they've been, but where their heart is taking them next. When curiosity dies, assumptions take its place. You start assuming you know what they think, you assume you know what they want, you stop asking because you believe you already know. And assumptions are dangerous because they make you stop listening, and when you stop listening, you stop seeing, and when you stop seeing, the distance grows. Curiosity is a choice. It's a decision to lean in when it would be easier to lean out. It's choosing to ask, tell me more, instead of I already know. It's choosing to see your partner not as a finished book you've read cover to cover, but as a story that's still being written, a story worth reading every day. Think about it. When was the last time you asked your partner a question that wasn't about logistics? When was the last time you were genuinely curious about what excites them right now, what scares them, what they're secretly hoping for? When was the last time you looked at them and thought, there's still more I want to know about you? When curiosity is alive, love feels alive. It keeps things fresh, surprising, engaging. It keeps you connected not just to who they were, but to who they're becoming. And that connection is what keeps you from drifting. The couples who stay close over the long haul aren't the ones who avoid conflict or never face challenges. They're the ones who never stop being curious. Never stop asking, never stop learning each other again and again. But when curiosity fades, complacency moves in. You stop trying, you stop growing together. And instead of partners, you start feeling like roommates. Like two people living parallel lives under the same roof, sharing space but not truly sharing yourselves. And that's the real danger. Not loud fights, not big betrayals, but quiet distance, silent drift. The moment you stop being curious about each other is the moment you start drifting apart. So stay curious, keep asking, keep wondering, keep exploring the beautiful complexity of the person you chose. Because love isn't something you find once and keep forever. Love is something you choose to rediscover every single day. And curiosity is the path back to each other, again and again. If your needs are consistently minimized or dismissed, that's not compromise, it's neglect. And the danger is, it doesn't always look like neglect at first. It often disguises itself as patience, as understanding, as choosing your battles. You tell yourself you're being flexible. You tell yourself you're being mature. You convince yourself that love means letting things go. And yes, love sometimes requires sacrifice. Love sometimes calls for putting another person first. But love was never meant to be a one-way sacrifice. Love was never meant to ask you to abandon yourself just to keep the relationship afloat. Compromise is when two people meet in the middle. Compromise is when both voices are heard, both needs are valued, and both hearts matter. But when one person's needs are consistently pushed aside, ignored, or minimized, that's not meeting in the middle. That's one person doing all the bending while the other stands firm. That's imbalance. And imbalance, over time, turns into resentment. The hard part is that neglect doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. It shows up in the way your concerns are brushed off with a quick, you're overreacting. It shows up in the way your dreams are quietly dismissed as impractical. It shows up in the way your feelings are minimized. It's not that big of a deal. Why are you making it one? And each time it happens, you shrink a little bit more. Each time it happens, you question yourself a little bit more. Maybe I am asking for too much. Maybe I am too sensitive. But here's the truth. Wanting to feel heard is not asking for too much. Wanting to feel seen is not asking for too much. Running your feelings to matter is not asking for too much. It's asking for the bare minimum of respect and care. And if someone consistently treats those needs as inconvenient, excessive, or annoying, they are not loving you. They are neglecting you. Neglect isn't always loud. It isn't always cruel. Sometimes it's quiet indifference. Sometimes it's polite dismissal. Sometimes it's a smile and a nod while they plan to do whatever they wanted anyway. And the longer you stay in that dynamic, the more you start adapting to it. You stop speaking up as much. You stop asking for what you need. You stop believing that your needs are even valid. But love doesn't ask you to disappear. Love doesn't ask you to silence yourself. Love doesn't ask you to carry the weight of two people while pretending it's normal. If you're always the one compromising, if you're always the one giving up pieces of yourself just to keep the peace, that's not love, that's survival. And relationships built on survival don't thrive, they drain. Real love holds space for both people. It makes room for both sets of needs. It honors both voices, even when they don't agree. And when disagreements happen, real love doesn't dismiss or diminish. It leans in, it listens. It tries to understand. Because love is not about winning. Love is not about control. Love is about connection. And connection requires care, it requires curiosity, it requires a willingness to take someone's needs seriously. Even when they're inconvenient, even when they're uncomfortable, even when they challenge you. Love doesn't turn away from needs, it leans into them. Because every need is a doorway into deeper understanding, deeper intimacy, deeper partnership. If your needs are constantly being minimized or dismissed, you're not in a partnership, you're in a dynamic where only one person's comfort matters. And over time, that kind of dynamic doesn't just hurt, it erodes your sense of self. It teaches you to settle, it teaches you to expect less, it teaches you to stop reaching for the fullness of what love is meant to be. Don't confuse neglect for compromise. Don't convince yourself that sacrificing your voice is noble. Don't stay silent hoping things will change on their own. Your needs matter, your voice matters, your heart matters, and love, real love, wants to meet those needs, not erase them. And at the end of the day, love isn't about how much you can tolerate, it's about how much you're willing to honor in yourself and in each other. Don't mistake silence for strength. Don't mistake endurance for love. Speak, ask, expect, because love that asks you to disappear was never love to begin with. When accountability becomes one-sided, resentment moves in. It doesn't happen overnight. It builds quietly, little by little, with every broken promise, every unmet expectation, every time you're asked to own your mistakes while theirs are ignored or excused. At first, you tell yourself you're being patient. You tell yourself they're just going through a phase. You make excuses because you want to believe the best. But deep down, something begins to shift. You start to feel the weight of carrying all the responsibility alone. And with that weight, resentment starts to grow. Accountability is supposed to be shared. It's the foundation of trust. It's what keeps a relationship honest and healthy. And it's the willingness to say, I see where I've fallen short. I'm willing to make it right. But when only one person is doing that work, when only one person is willing to reflect, apologize, adjust, something breaks. The balance disappears. And without balance, love starts to feel heavy. You see, accountability isn't about blame. It's not about pointing fingers or keeping score. It's about owning your part so that growth can happen. It's about two people standing on the same team, both willing to look in the mirror and ask, what can I do better? But when that question is only asked by one person over and over, it creates an invisible gap. One person becomes the fixer, the peacekeeper, the one who bends, adjusts, apologizes, even for things that aren't entirely their fault. And the other person, they stay comfortable, they stay unchallenged, they stay unaccountable. At first, you might not even realize it's happening. You might think you're just being the bigger person. You might feel proud of your emotional maturity, your willingness to take responsibility. But over time, it starts to feel unfair. You notice how easily they dismiss your concerns. You notice how quickly they shift the blame back onto you. You notice how every difficult conversation somehow circles back to your faults, your shortcomings, your mistakes. And slowly, you stop feeling safe to speak. Slowly, you start to wonder if your voice even matters. That's what happens when accountability becomes one-sided. It silences one person while empowering the other to avoid growth. And silence, over time, doesn't create peace. It breeds resentment. Resentment is what fills the space where fairness used to live. Resentment is what grows when you keep showing up, keep trying, keep apologizing, and nothing changes on the other side. Resentment changes you. It makes you pull back emotionally. It makes you stop trusting. It makes you less generous, less forgiving, less willing to invest. Not because you want to give up, but because you're tired of feeling alone in a relationship that was supposed to be shared. You're tired of carrying all the emotional labor, all the responsibility, all the effort to repair what takes two people to build. When accountability is shared, love can deepen, trust can grow, mistakes become opportunities to learn, not weapons to harm. But when accountability is lopsided, when only one person is held to a standard, the relationship stops feeling like a partnership. It starts feeling like a performance. One person performing responsibility while the other enjoys the benefits without the burden. And no relationship can thrive in that imbalance. You deserve a relationship where accountability is mutual, where both of you can admit when you're wrong, where both of you can take ownership without defensiveness, where both of you understand that growth requires humility. Because accountability isn't a punishment, it's a sign of respect. It's saying, I value this relationship enough to do my part, to protect it. If you find yourself always being the one who takes responsibility, always being the one who apologizes first, always being the one who adjusts while the other refuses to move, pay attention. That's not partnership. That's imbalance. And imbalance invites resentment. The truth is, love without accountability isn't sustainable. Accountability is what keeps love honest. It's what keeps love growing. Without it, one person ends up carrying the weight for two. And eventually, no matter how strong you are, that weight becomes too heavy. You deserve to be in a relationship where accountability doesn't fall on just one pair of shoulders, where both people show up, own their part, and commit to doing better. Because that's how love stays alive, not through perfection, but through shared responsibility. And if accountability isn't shared, then love won't be either. If you find yourself making excuses for being treated poorly, you've normalized dysfunction. And the most dangerous part is you probably don't even realize it's happening. It creeps in slowly, little by little, disguised as patience, disguised as understanding, disguised as loyalty. You tell yourself, they're just stressed right now. You tell yourself, they didn't really mean it. You tell yourself, it's not that bad. Every time you minimize what hurts, every time you explain away what's unacceptable, you train yourself to accept less than you deserve. Dysfunction doesn't always show up as chaos. Sometimes it shows up as patterns you've grown used to. Patterns like constant criticism disguised as helpful advice. Patterns like being ignored until they need something from you. Patterns like walking on eggshells because their mood swings are unpredictable. And over time, those patterns stop looking like red flags. They start looking like just the way things are. You stop questioning it. You stop resisting it. You start adjusting to survive it. But love isn't supposed to make you shrink. Love isn't supposed to make you justify being hurt. Love isn't supposed to feel like something you have to explain to everyone else over and over until they stop asking questions because they see what you're refusing to admit. If you constantly have to defend someone's behavior, if you constantly have to fill in the gaps with excuses, that's not love. That's a sign you've normalized something unhealthy. Making excuses for poor treatment isn't compassion, it's self-abandonment. It's the slow process of silencing your own needs to protect a version of the relationship you wish were real. It's telling yourself that things will get better if you just wait a little longer, if you just try a little harder, if you just stay a little more silent. But no amount of silence will fix what's broken if the other person refuses to change. No amount of waiting will transform dysfunction into health. Healthy love doesn't need excuses. Healthy love is consistent, respectful, and safe. It makes room for imperfection without making you pay for it. It allows accountability without shame. It offers kindness even in conflict. But when dysfunction becomes normal, you start to believe that kindness is a reward you have to earn. Tolerating pain isn't the same as receiving love. You deserve a relationship where love doesn't have to hurt, where love doesn't come at the cost of your self-worth, where love doesn't ask you to explain away red flags just to keep the peace. If you find yourself making excuses for being treated poorly, pause and ask yourself, why do I feel the need to protect someone else's behavior at the expense of my own well-being? Why do I feel responsible for covering up what's hurting me? Why do I believe this is as good as it gets? Because the truth is, love doesn't need a defense attorney. Love should speak for itself through actions that uplift, respect, and nurture. Don't normalize dysfunction just because it feels familiar. Don't confuse endurance with strength. Don't confuse attachment with love. You deserve a relationship that doesn't need excuses. You deserve a love that doesn't require you to explain away your pain. You deserve a love that lets you be fully seen, fully heard, and fully safe. And if you're making excuses, it's time to stop. It's time to see the situation for what it is, not what you hope it will be. Because hope won't fix dysfunction. Love won't grow where respect is absent. And the first step to healing is admitting that what you've been defending isn't love. It's survival. And you were never meant to just survive. You were meant to live.